Hi, I'm standing inside our RF reverberation chamber. If you're wondering what the reflected lights are, that's just the light in the chamber being reflected off the RF stirs. And it's interesting visual effect that is sort of representative of what goes on with the RF world, in that no matter where you are in this chamber, your eyes are going to see every once in a while a bright reflected light hitting them. And so that's the same idea what's happening at RF, that at any point in the chamber there's going to be a peak level of RF that's reflected to the test point from the transmitter antenna. So I'm about to begin a calibration process. We've done it multiple times, but I'm doing it a different way to confirm results. A calibration, power calibration, has to happen in any kind of RF chamber, whether it's a reverberation chamber or an anechoic chamber. So there's multiple ways to do this, and we do calibrations multiple ways. Today I'm going to be using actually this Safe and Sound Pro 2 meter. Now the interesting story of this particular meter is that it has traveled to different countries and been tested in multiple labs, 3 different RF labs in 2 countries, this exact meter here, and the results from all those labs are very close to each other. So what I'm going to do is actually use that as a power reference at each frequency to know how much to compensate for to make this meter perfectly flat frequency response. So I'm going to be stepping through all the frequencies from 200 megahertz all the way up to 10 gigahertz to determine, in this case, what 1 milliwatt per square meter or 1000 microwatts per square meter power density is at the test point. So I'll give you a little look at what's going on in the control room, but basically it's setting power levels, documenting the power levels at each test frequency so that we can then use this same test environment and same test location to test other meters and other devices for their frequency response across the spectrum of our tests. In this case, like I said, 200 megahertz to 10 gigahertz. So here we go into the other room. Right now I'm at our 2.4 gigahertz test point, and I'm just looking at the reference antenna in the reverberation chamber in the corner. And again, this isn't at the test point, but it gives you an idea of what we have to do at the test point. Notice that the power level is constantly fluctuating. And that is because the RF stirs are rotating, and what you're seeing are minimums and maximums. So what I'm doing is actually just adjusting this this peak level line here to where I can see the RF peaks, and I can see that in this case I'm seeing minus 38.6 dBm power received at that point. Now again, that minus 38.6 dBm is the power received at the spectrum analyzer, so I have to factor in the loss of the coaxial cable because we know the exact length of this cable, and I have to factor in the antenna gain or antenna factor of the receiving antenna. But that's kind of the process. This is what I'll actually be looking at during the calibration process because this is at the test point. And I'm going to be just looking exactly at what the peaks are. And I didn't clear the peak reset since our last test, so looking at the display, it looks like 796 was the highest that I see so far. Oh, it went to 823 there. So I let the RF stirs. It can take about 10 or 15 seconds for the RF stirs to go through their complete cycle. Because there are so many RF stirs turning independently, it's not like I can look at the max every half second or something like that. So what I'll document is the highest peak that I'm seeing at this test frequency of 2.4 gigahertz. And I repeat this same process for every test frequency that we do. So it's a slow process, but once the data is gathered, it's very nice because the signal generator can be programmed to set power levels at each frequency to generate a constant known field intensity at the test location. So back at it, and that's how we do a calibration.